I don't need your sympathy. There's nothing you can say or do for me, and I don't want a miracle. You'll never change for no one, and I hear your reasons why. Well, where did you sleep last night? And was she worth it? Was she worth it? Was I strong enough to live without you? Strong enough and quit crying long enough. And I'm strong enough to know you gotta go. More to say, so see your well and walk away. Okay, hold on. All right, sit down. I have things I want to tell you.
Yeah!
But first, I have to get something to drink. No, singing in Las Vegas is like singing in hell. Not that I would know that. It just seems like it. All right. Here we are. Here I am. Is this because now you're overcome by immense talent, or are you just astonished that I'm here? All right. Someone in your group tonight said, "Oh my God, Blake Shelton is here, and Ellen, and Diana, J-Lo. I can't wait to see them." And then a good person, maybe your wife, said, "No, let's go see Cher because we don't know how much longer she's going to be here." Actually, we don't know how much longer she's going to be anywhere. And no, she's 70. But let me take the arrows out of my breasts. Speaking of breasts, come on. How about a hand for the big girls? They're not just a pretty face either. No, they can do pop, they can do rock, they can do a mean march that would just make John Philip Sousa cry. This is the Classic Cher. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Really, it's like, we don't have anything else to call it. Let's call it Classic Cher, you know?
And if all goes correctly, you guys should have a really good time. And it's exciting, isn't it, kinda?
Yes!
Yeah, you just get dressed up and you come over and you go, oh my God, I hope she's gonna be good, because it'll be so bad if she sucks, and I spent all my money, and we're good, Sharon. Okay, so now, this is what I'm gonna say. So when Sonny and I, in the 60s, Sonny and I were very famous. And then we just took a nosedive, and we had no job, we had no money. We owed the government $270,000. Yeah, and those were a long time ago dollars too. They were much better. So anyway, so Son said to me, all right, we have to change plans. I said, okay, I haven't got any idea. So he said, now you have to just believe in me, and if you do, in 2 years, this is the truth, in 2 years we will be bigger than we were ever in the 60s. And so I said, okay. He put on a tux, I put on a dress, and we started playing these really horrible dive places. They were kind of like dinner theater, stripper joints. And there were 2 shows a night.
In the first show, people were busy eating, so they just didn't pay too much attention to us at all. And in the second show, 12 o'clock, everyone was drunk. All 5 people. And they hated us. And so I finally got bored, so I just started trying to make the band laugh. And then I started trying to make Sonny laugh, which was very easy. And that's how we came up with our monologue. On the Sonny and Cher show, if you ever saw it, that's how we came up. So that's what I usually do in my long career. And but somehow I just couldn't find the monologue, so instead I've been telling people about the 3 days it took me to turn 40. It's about 12 o'clock on the 19th of May, 1986.
And I was in my favorite club with my best friend Paulette. The club was called Heartbreak. It was in New York. So I'm sitting on the top of a banquette and I'm drinking a beer and I'm like short this and low that. And I'm thinking, you're so cool because you cheated death and you're not old and you're 40, so you go girl. Right. So anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I'm just feeling so great. And I turn and I see this guy. And this is the cutest guy I have ever seen in my life.
And he was so hot. Anyway, so I turned to Paulette. All the women are going to understand this. And I said, Polly, don't look now, but there's the cutest guy over there we've ever seen. And she goes, where? So I hit her. And so anyway, I gave her a big bruise, but we've been friends, so it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so he turned out to be Robert Camilletti. And all night we were kind of like cruising each other, but nothing happened. So I got bored and went home. So I go home, and I've been staying in my friend's hotel. So the next morning, the phone rings, and it's George Miller, the director of Witches of Eastwick. And he says to me, right, he says, I don't want you, Jack doesn't want you, and he doesn't think you're sexy. Yeah. Good morning, 40. So he kept talking to me too. And and I'm crying, but I bit my cheek so he wouldn't hear me crying. So it's just like fabulous tears, like every actress prays for after doing a scene. So just like tears and hot and all that, you know. So I was living in a hotel. I was living in my friend's hotel, and my kids, I'm on the phone crying. The kids come in with the cake and 2 bellmen, and I'm sobbing, and I see them, and I'm going, oh my God, that's so great, and thank you, love you, thank you, I'm so happy. And so, we eat the cake and they go. All right, so my friend, who's been really sweet to me, he's been letting me stay at his hotel forever, and I owe him $28,000, and I can't pay it. I didn't have the money, and I just kept saying, dude, we're friends. So, remember that. Remember when you went to jail? I was the only person you lied to afterwards. So, it's true. Yeah, it's true. So, but he's a wonderful guy. He owns Studio 54, and he went to jail, but then he got out. So, I digress. All right, so anyway, for the longest time, David Letterman's show had been asking me to come on, and I kept saying no. And they said, well, will you come on? And I said, well, I will for $28,000. And they said, we don't do that. And then I said, well, then neither do I. So the producer said to me, by the way, why haven't you ever come on the show? And I said, because I think he's an asshole. So they gave me the money. And I go on the show, and I'm like ratty. I don't even look good. I didn't wear nice clothes. I have almost no makeup on. And I sit down, and he says, so why haven't you ever come on the show? And I know that he knows what I say. And I thought, he knows if I say anything else, I'll be lying, and we'll know I'm lying. And so I kind of tried, if you ever have seen it, you can kind of see me trying to maneuver. And then words came out of my mouth. I could actually see them in little words like that. I'm not kidding. And I was like, before they got out, I said, because I thought, because I thought you were an asshole. Yes. That traumatized Dave for several years. And, but we became friends, and we're friends now, even though he sent me a lovely flower arrangement for my birthday and a lovely card, and he wrote on it, and then he said at the bottom, but my mother always liked Sonny best. Right, we're just so deep. Okay, so, all right, so that was then, and this is now, and I'm 70. Applaud for that. Don't applaud for that. I don't love that. I'm pissed off and no applause, okay? We don't applaud for those things. Those are just freaks of nature, things that happen. So, but, the other day I did 100 butt lifts, and a couple of weeks ago, no, it was a month ago, I did a 5-minute plank, okay? Yeah. Which is a bitch in any year you do it. So, I just have one thing to say, okay? Are you listening? Yeah. What's your granny doing tonight?
me, keeps me hanging on. Oh honey, all I ever need is you. You're my first love, you're my last. You're my future, you're my past. Winners come, they go, and we watch the melting snow. So I summer, fall, spring, all the things you do. Give me a reason to build my world around you. Goes on, the beat goes on. Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da. Gyros doing what's the rage. Goes on. Don't keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da. The grocery store, the supermarket. The wall. Practically they keep a peaceful score. The beat goes on. The beat goes on. Rome's becoming a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee, la-da-da-da-da.
dry here. All right. So I had thought about doing this song for a long time, but I wasn't sure that I would feel right about it. And then I did it a couple of times, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll do it on my next farewell tour. And yes, this is it. And then I thought, oh, I don't know. And then I thought, bitch, if 500, do it. So I did, and we had a good time, and the audience seemed to like it, and I know he likes it. Okay.
Mystery Circus and Carnival of 1898.
Just
exotic shapes that drive men wild. Santa, the strongest man on the face of the earth. Prince Nadu swallows his razor-sharp sword. Watching awe and amazement as the Team Roxanne puts her champion stallion Fandango through his paces.
feeling broken, barely holding on. But there's just something so strong somewhere inside me, and I'm down, but I'll get up again. Don't count me out just yet. I've been brought down to my knees, and I've been pushed right past the point of breaking, but I can't take it. I'll be back on my feet. This is falling over.
like a woman about to go forth and sin.
Oh, good, exactly the look I was hoping for.
Are all American women as exciting as you?
Alas, no.
I came here to warn you. What do you think?
I think you ought to knock next time you come through that door.
Yes, yes.
You are physically repulsive, intellectually retarded, you're morally reprehensible, vulgar, insensitive, selfish, stupid, you have no taste, a lousy sense of humor, and you smell.
Now where's my goddamn Picasso?
I will get you, okay?
Is that an Italian get it or an American get it?
I'm having a really hard time just, pretending like it's business as usual. This is a copy of our lease. This is a copy of Rocky's birth certificate, and this is his last report card from Stevens Junior High School, where he was in the top 5% of his class. And I got some additional information for you. My lawyer's name is B.D. Higgins, and he's told me of my rights. If you give me any shit at all, he's gonna drag your ass into court.
Listen to this. Genetic damage. It says here, gross physical and mental defects.
All right, got them.
I am your mother. It is my job to watch over your education. There's so little of it left. Ooh, we're gonna play my favorite game. Who's the worst mother in the world? Ooh, now don't tell me. Let me guess. Who could it be? Could it be me?
First of all, that lousy little indie film has grossed over $200 million. And secondly, I don't beg. And you know why I don't beg? Because I am a fucking Oscar winner! Where are you taking me?
To the bed.
Oh, God. Okay, I don't care. Take me to the bed. Oh, my God.
I'm in love with you.
Snap out of it.
Whatever is Cher, you
Finally meant that I was accepted in some area of my work because, I've never really been accepted by singers as a singer, and actors don't think of me as an actor. I've actually succeeded at everything I ever tried, and yet I'm not part of any of the groups. I don't think that this means that I am somebody, but I guess I'm on my way. Thank you.
Trying it on our own, but deep inside you know we'd be back to set things straight. And I still remember your kiss was so brand new. Every memory repeats. Every step I take retreats. Every journey always brings me back to you. And
My mother loved music. There was lots of Hank Williams in our house growing up, and there was also lots of Tito Puente. And my uncle and my mom and my grandfather, they would sit around and play guitars and sing, and we would all sing. And then Elvis came. We watched him on Ed Sullivan, and my mom said, he is so great. She loved his sound. She loved his songs because, you know, they were Southern songs. And I just thought he was amazing. I could relate to him. I think I loved Heartbreak Hotel the best. Came out to Los Angeles, I think at the Pan Pacific Auditorium. I was 11, and I said to my mom, I said, Mom, can we go? Please, can we go? And she said, yeah, that would be fun, let's go. At some point in the concert, all these screaming teenage girls got up on their chairs and were hysterical. I said to my mom, Mom, can we get up on the top of our chairs and scream too? And she said, sure, let's just get up on top of the chairs and let's scream and yell and jump up and down. He was a rebel and he did things exactly the way he wanted. It really introduced me into music like I never felt before.
suede shoes on. I'm born to play. Just down in the land of the Delta Blues, middle of the pouring rain. WC Handy, won't you look down over me? Yeah, I got a first class ticket, but I'm as blue as a girl can be. I'm walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet off the field, walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? Saw the ghost of Elvis on the Union Avenue, followed him up to the gates of Graceland, and I watched him walk right through. And security, they did not see him, they just hovered around his tomb. There's a pretty little thing waiting for the king down in the jungle room. When I was walking in there, walking with my feet 10 feet on the ground, walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? I'm walking in Memphis. boy, you got a prayer in Memphis. April played piano every Friday at the Hollywood. That brought me down to see him. Asked me if I would do a little number. I sing it all my night. He said, tell me, are you a Christian child? I said, man, I am tonight. Walking in Memphis, walking with my feet set free on the field. Walking in Memphis, do I really feel the way I feel? I'm walking in Memphis. I'm walking with my feet on the field. I'm walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? tears.